Hey everybody, Ted here. This is going to be the part 2 video, and it's all about building a basic firewood structure for pretty much no dollars. And this is the structure I came up with. This is how I did it in a nutshell, and hope you enjoy the video. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. As far as building a good rigid structure that's really good for protecting your wood and making your life a lot easier, you're not going to get any simpler or cheaper than this. It does require a little effort, and you're going to have to haul some things. You're going to have to find some things, but it's really not too hard to find. Everything except for 1-2 pieces of lumber here that I actually milled with my chainsaw mill came out of the same yard where they have pallets that they were getting rid of. And it's a total of, we have 6 pallets here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pallets that I got out of there. 1 crate that I got out of there. And I had to use 2 pieces of milled lumber that I milled, a 2x4, and 6 nails. So let's take a good look at it and explain what I did and how easy it is, and hopefully you'll find it helpful. Okay, I guess we start at the beginning. At the bottom, I have 2 4x4 pallets. You can use any size as long as you're willing to work and make your structure work. I like to use 4x4s because it gives me, this is just a little bit more than, this is about 2/3 of a cord stacked of wood. 3/4, it's about 3 feet high. So I guess that would be 3/4 because it's a 4x4 pallets that it's stacked on. But you need pallets to put your wood on. And the reason you really want to always keep your wood up in the winter is this right here is solid ice. This pallet is actually frozen into the ground. The bottom portion of it was under runoff water that froze. But you want to keep your wood from freezing to the ground. You don't want to lose your lower course of wood to weather. And you want to make sure that your wood isn't drawing moisture up from the ground. That's kind of really a hindrance to quality firewood. So you start with those 2 pallets. If you can get 4x4s, that's great. The next step is building your bunks. This could not be any simpler. There's 6 nails that were used in this. There's 3 on each side. 1 is in the center, and it holds the bottom of this pallet to the center post of that pallet, so that this is tagged at the bottom. Then all I did was use another smaller pallet. You can use the same size pallet, it doesn't matter. I jammed it up underneath this lip, and I used 2 nails to tack this into here so it can't move, and it makes a kicker to keep this from pushing out. That is all. Now you have cribbing that runs the width of your pile and as high as you can make it with the pallets that you can find. The other thing is that it's ventilated, which means you have air circulation through there. So when you pull your tarps up and it's not inclement weather, it keeps your wood dry. It lets your wood air out. And if your wood isn't seasoned yet, you can stack wood in this and it'll dry really nicely. And then you just pull down when it rains to keep it dry, throw your tarps back up, weight them up, leave it when it's not raining. It works out really beautifully. The last portion of this is the roof system. I'm hoping you can see this all right. Yeah, you'll be able to see it right. The roof system is super simple. These were a plywood crate that came from where I got the pallets. They were the right size, so I took it with me. I blasted it apart, threw it in the trailer, took it with me, and that's the roof decking. But underneath the roof decking, all that's underneath here is a couple of pieces of chainsaw lumber that I milled. I got a couple 2x4s to support the back end. Everything rests on the pallets. Okay, so it's not even tacked down. And then to make it slope backwards, I'm on a tiny bit of a slope already with the ground, but I put 2x4s in here, 1.5-inch thick stock to rest the plywood on the front, and it's only 1 layer on the back, so that all the plywood rolls backwards. But let's take a look at something. This is separated from my firewood by the plywood, but look, you can see the moisture in here. It's all frozen on there. That's all frost that would otherwise be if you leave your tarp on your firewood when the weather is warmer and you don't let it air out. Like if you did this, if you leave your tarp on just stacked wood without a roof on it, all of this moisture would be going back into your firewood. And let's take a quick look around back before I open up the back. Back here, you can actually see it really nicely here. The plywood overhangs the firewood. You getting that? So there's like a longer roof so that any water that runs off of the plywood roof up here drops beyond the firewood. That way, when your tarp's laying down here, it's not running down your tarp on your firewood. Your tarp is suspended away from your firewood, and if you leave it up when the weather is, if you happen to forget and it's going to rain, that helps any runoff or any snow melt. If you leave snow on top like this, runs off of the wood, off of the firewood. Okay, as far as the tarps are concerned, this is pretty fundamental stuff. If you've ever done a roof on anything, you ever laid a shingle, you'll get it. If not, we'll explain it to you. This is actually 2 tarps. You can use 1 tarp, but I'm using an old pool tarp that I cut up. And it's 2 tarps. Let's see if we get a better view for you here. All I did was I laid the tarps on. I laid the back one on first on the downhill side. I put that on. And then I put the front tarp on so that it overlaps it. So that way any running water will run off this tarp onto that tarp like a shingle. Then I just took pieces of plywood. These are ends of that crate. They have a 2x4 frame. Put them on the ends and plywood in the middle. And what those pieces of plywood do is they hold the tarp down, but they're also spread out over a certain amount of area where if it's going to be really windy, I could throw a piece of firewood up there to keep the tarp from puffing up. That's what all that locust was up there for, to keep the front and rear from puffing up in the high winds. I use either small pallets or something like this. This is just old sideboards from a pickup truck, but something like this, a couple of smaller pallets, just lean them on the tarp and it holds it in there and it keeps it from, like I said, the low pressure from high winds from puffing everything up. It's super basic, it's super effective, and like I said, the beauty of this kind of structure right here is that in a bad storm, if you didn't bring enough wood in, or the storm lasts longer than it was supposed to and you run out with what you got stored in the house, depending on if you have enough room or not, you just come up here, lift up a corner, pull out what you need, throw it back down, and in the house you go. So that's that. I hope you found it useful. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. I got to get some firewood in the house.